Hi there, I'm Nicole Wilbur and I am a writer and I have the opportunity to do a book research trip to Italy, which is so exciting. So, just a little bit of background here. I'm writing a book. It's set mostly in Florence, kind of that area, a Tuscan area of Italy, and it is a YA action adventure heist novel, which I am super excited about, and I have no idea what draft I'm on, to be honest with you, because I've been editing it in chunks and I've written multiple drafts of every chunk, but when I finish this, I'm going to call it draft 4, even though it's probably draft 46. So, whatever. But I actually got the whole idea for this story 18 months ago or so in September of 2021 when I got to stay in Florence for a month. It was so exciting. I actually have a vlog video about that if you're interested. It was so much fun, and I was hit with the idea. I was walking on cobblestones in these really cute blue heels, and I had to walk quickly for a moment, and you're on cobblestones, and I was like, goodness, it would be so hard to run on cobblestones in heels. And then I was like, under what circumstances would someone need to run on cobblestones in heels? And then I had to sit down on the steps of a church and write on my phone really quick the idea. And 18 months later, here we are. And I'm at the point where I think going with that was my dog, going with a view to enhancing, refreshing my memory on some of these setting things will be perfect. So the situation is, I'm not going to Europe to do this. I actually have a year-long visa to Portugal, so I am not really moving to Lisbon because I don't have a lease or anything, but I have longer-term housing. So I booked accommodation and I booked my flight to Lisbon, and then I decided to change accommodations because I just wanted a different experience than what I'd booked, and the one that I changed to wasn't available until I think 5 days after my flight landed in Lisbon. And I was like, okay, so I could, find somewhere to stay in Lisbon. And then my brain went, or, you've been wanting to do a research trip to Italy. And so I decided to do an extremely budget trip to Italy. Extremely budget in that this whole thing, we're not counting food, but the whole thing I project to cost less than $550 US, or about $550 US for, I believe it is, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, for 5 nights in Italy. So basically a week, 6 days in Italy. And so we're going to plan it here together now, where I'm going to talk through my planning process. So basically I have these 5-6-ish days available and I kind of had to plan out what do I need to see for the book, what do I want to see, and how much time is available, how much time will it take to go between the different places. So in terms of my book, I used to have something set in Rome. The first little bit of it was set in Rome, and then they moved to Florence. I now changed that to Venice. So although I've always toyed with the idea of putting Rome in there again, I don't think it's gonna get in there. So we land in Venice, and then my character goes to Florence. She travels a little bit around rural Tuscany, and then she goes over to Cinque Terre, or I'm just gonna call it Cinque Terre because I cannot pronounce it, the 5 villages on the water. You know the pictures, for a little bit of time, and then comes back to Florence. I'm gonna just go through the trip in order and talk through the decision making a little bit. So basically I land on a Tuesday at, I believe it's 11 a.m. in Lisbon, and I had to factor in some buffer time. So I was looking for a flight that went from Lisbon to Italy, leaving at least after 2 p.m. if not later. I knew that I probably couldn't get a good, I knew that I couldn't do a connecting flight because, you know, you've already flown overnight to Lisbon. I don't want to hop over to like London and then down to Italy. That sucks. So it had to be a direct flight. And so I had a couple of options. The best one ended up being a Lisbon to Rome for $160 Canadian. So it leaves Lisbon at 4:45 p.m. and it arrives in Rome at 8:45 p.m. Now the tricky thing about this was that I definitely didn't have any desire to go to Rome, which is, you know, too bad because the book's not set there. But when you're landing at 8:45 p.m., having just done a red-eye from Canada, I knew that I would have to stay overnight in Rome. And so I lucked out and found this amazing hotel. I will put a little of it up here for $77 Canadian for one night. And even if it is complete trash, that's fine. I'm only there for a night, less than it by the time I get there. Hopefully I can like order some pizza or something on my way to the hotel and have a good sleep. Then I looked at the sort of schedule and thought, you know, what to do. So I kind of ruled out Venice because Rome to Venice is like 4 or 5 hours. Rome to Florence is only about like 2 hours. And so I didn't want to go all the way up. I have limited amount of time, right? And I actually have been able to go to Venice a couple times. So I feel pretty good about it. And all my character does really is like leave the airport, go on a short gondola ride. So it's okay. It's okay. And besides, to be completely honest with you, a rather large part of me wanting to go to Italy is to retaste certain food because I'm not great at describing setting, but I'm like semi-decent at describing food, and there are certain dishes that I put in the book that I am so excited about. And I've had to move some restaurants around. Like I have unfortunately moved a restaurant from Rome to Florence, but if, you know, I got my way at the end of the book, I would maybe put it in author's note and just like name the restaurants and their actual locations so you could maybe go there, I don't know, or it'll be like content on my website or something. So I want to go back and eat these things. So that's part of it too. And there's nothing in Venice that I particularly want to eat, so it's fine. So the next day is a Wednesday, so hopefully going to be able to wake up nice and early and grab the train over to Florence, and that's $45 Canadian. That's the most expensive train I'm gonna have to take this whole time because I'm gonna try to do like a high-speed one. And then I looked at Florence, an accommodation in Florence. Remember, we are being cheap. We're trying to be super cheap. So basically, I had this situation where, I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's this thing called inflation, and hotel prices are kind of crazy at the moment, especially in Florence and like these big destinations. And I'm only one person, of course. If you're splitting the cost with someone else, it's a little bit more decent. But if it's just you, you have an issue. So I was able to find accommodations for like $100 to $150 a night Canadian in Florence in the city center. They were either hostels though, or they were hotels with like, frankly, bad reviews. And I can rough it, but when I see reviews that are like dirty, you know, grime everywhere, and they're fairly consistent, or it has a really low star rating, it's like, damn, am I gonna spend $150 a night to stay somewhere I do not want to stay? So I ended up broadening my search, and I found this little town called Prato, and it is about, I think it's about a 15-20 minute train ride from Florence. It's technically, it's not in Florence. So Florence has its like own little region. So it's not even on like the outskirts of Florence. It's a different little region. But I found one just about, it should be like a 40-minute commute into Florence. It's called, I think the hotel is called Lucentum. And for 2 nights, it's costing me $226 Canadian, which is so good. And it is rated exceptional, rave reviews, a 15-minute walk to the train station, and I am so excited. And I'm even more excited because, first of all, one of the restaurants that I really, really love in Florence is an Indian restaurant, and I have to figure out, I don't know how I'm gonna eat all of these things, but I have to figure out how to work the Indian food in, because this Indian restaurant is the restaurant that made me like Indian food. I did not like it before September 2021, and then I went to Italy and I loved Indian food, so I have to go to the restaurant. I'm hoping all of these things are still there. I don't even know if it's gonna be in the book because it's kind of weird, but so good. Anyways, I like the train station is the end of that little rant. But I'm also excited because I get the opportunity, maybe, I don't know how much time I'm gonna have, but to do a little bit of exploring around a new little baby city. And I am so thrilled and so excited for that part of it. In Florence, I have a couple things that I desperately need to see again. One of them is Galleria dell'Accademia, where the David is, but also the Stradivarius violins, which inspired the MacGuffin of my own novel. I have to see the Uffizi. I've seen those two before, but the climax of my story actually takes place in Palazzo Vecchio, the old palace, which I have never been in before. And that's 90% of the reason I want to go, because a lot of the story takes place in that one building that I just never entered in. Love the piazza, by the way. There's a really great cafe that's hopefully still there. It's after COVID, right? I went after COVID, so it should be fine. That's like right around the corner, and they have such good like pistachio cream filled croissants, and you can like sit on the little table and like look at the church. It's so nice. Watch my Italy vlog. I'm just recreating the same thing again, but I'm so excited. So there's that. I will probably try to make it to sunset at Piazzelli, Michelangelo up on the hill, wander around just to get the feel, visit my favorite gelato shop, all that kind of stuff. Actually, I have 2 favorite gelato shops. Thank God I'm going to be in Florence for 2 days because I have 2 different shops to visit. As I said, there's lots of eating happening here, but I'm really, really excited for that. So then on to the next leg of the journey. We will see if I'm able to maybe fit in a little short, like, winery tour to like a vineyard, because part of the book is set at a vineyard. I have pretty good memories of that, but it would be, you know, fun to sneak a cheeky little wine tour in there. I'm gonna have to take a day off work because this is all happening not on the weekend, and I work and travel at the same time. So, you know, I can usually like do things in the morning, work all afternoon. However, you can't work in the afternoon when you've just been to a vineyard. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to fit that in. But I would love to, you know, because it's Italy and it's wine and it's Tuscany and it's amazing. So the next bit of it, I definitely wanted to go to Cinque Terre again. It's a little bit self-indulgent just because I love Cinque Terre. I loved it. There is this pesto focaccia. Again, I said it's a food tour. The pesto focaccia that I got, I don't remember exactly what village it was, but I'm going to have to search all through these 5 villages for this pesto focaccia. I dreamed about that stuff for like weeks on end. I've not forgotten it. I want it again so badly. There's also a sunset there that I didn't get to fully experience because we couldn't figure out how to sign up for the list. But we figured it out by the time we were leaving, so we couldn't actually do it, but hopefully I'll be able to do it this time. Also want to get a little boat and go out and just do it again. It's so fun. But the other thing that I wanted to do was, again, while I was there 2 years ago, we went to this little town called Lucca. And Lucca was probably my favorite city I've been to in Italy because it is small, it's a beautiful walled medieval city. There's a big bike culture of like biking along the sort of outskirts of it. And the main square was so peaceful, so beautiful. They had this amazing market with all this tea and lovely stuff. And it was so cute. And I remember thinking to myself, I would come back and stay here. And so I'm going back and staying there. So instead of staying in Cinque Terre, which is again pretty damn expensive, I am staying in a bed and breakfast in Lucca that's 10-12 minutes from the train station. It's listed as in the city center, friendly, the host is friendly, it's cute, it's quaint, and for 2 nights it's costing me $161 Canadian, which is amazing. For how highly rated that was, I'm literally so excited. And so I will be able to, I think it's only maybe not even an hour or about an hour from Lucca over to Cinque Terre, and so I will be able to do that, and that finally is on a weekend or Friday, Saturday. So I'll be able to have a little bit more time to do exploring around there and visit those 5 villages. And then the very last day of my trip, I am flying out this Sunday. It's a flight that leaves, I think it's around 5 p.m. in Italy, arriving in Lisbon around 8 p.m. That was $150 Canadian. And that one is late in the day, which is great because I should be able to hit up my favorite restaurant in Rome before I get on the plane for some cacio e pepe. So hopefully I'll be able to get like a decent train and get in there to get that pasta. And I think what I'm going to try to do either in the next couple weeks or on the plane is highlight moments in the story where I could use more detail and sort of like freshness and setting feelings. Just make sure that those are like highlighted, marked, tagged. So if I'm in the moment and I want to kind of look back at what I said and add to it or change it, I can pull up Novelpad on my phone really easily. It works pretty well. I can also just use notes, but I'll pull up Novelpad on my phone and just like edit in real time. So that is my plan. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Have you ever done a research trip for your book? I would love to hear about it. And if you have tips for like getting the most out of one of these trips, again, would love them. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.